Police have no doubt the disappearance of 27-year-old Christopher Daunt is suspicious. Today they were searching for anything to bring them closer to locating him, bringing in trail bike riders, detectives on foot and polaire.
We're not going into the nature of the information that we've received, but we're looking for any evidence that may assist us in the disappearance of Christopher Daunt.
The self-employed builder who lived at Glendale went missing 5 months ago. He was last seen visiting a friend at North Lambton. Days later, his white ute was found at a Wallsend address. The vehicle has now been forensically investigated, but police won't go into details.
The possibility that something sinister has happened to Mr Daunt is a line of inquiry. It's one line of inquiry we're following, but that is a possibility.
Police say they're working through a number of lines of inquiry that may lead to more searches. They've also confirmed they're working with the homicide squad in Sydney.
There are clearly, in my opinion, people in the community that do possess some information that may assist this inquiry. I would urge those people to come forward now, contact Lake Macquarie detectives or Crime Stoppers.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Newcastle's contentious high-rise towers now the subject of mixed messages from the state's planning minister.
It really does create that uncertainty, and from an industry point of view, and I think also from the community's point of view, people crave certainty. This sort of comment from the planning minister really doesn't help that.
When quizzed about the concerns of the Newcastle Inner City Residents Association during a budget estimates hearing yesterday, Rob Stokes said he understands the group's concerns in relation to the development scale and heritage impacts, and that he strongly agreed with the considerations and wants urban growth to work with Newcastle Council to get a mutually agreeable outcome. The comments follow intense community opposition to the development after 8-storey height limits were increased to allow 17 stories last year.
We were delighted and very encouraged by Minister Stokes' comments yesterday in Parliament. They weren't just flippant remarks, they were considered comments which gave us hope that there will be changes to the height limits.
But in a statement to NBN News today, the minister said the proposal should comply with the new heights in the local environmental plan. A revised development application for the proposal will be assessed by Newcastle Council later this year. Georgina Smythe, NBN News. Bellatrix is one sick dog. The 5-year-old Scottish deerhound has been experiencing chronic neck pain for years, and the cause would have remained a mystery without this CT scanner.
We've been able to discover so many more things that are just not visible on, say, a regular X-ray.
The scanner, shipped from Japan and installed at the Newcastle Animal Referral and Emergency Centre, uses the same technology as the human version, but involves a lot more patient preparation.
Pretty much with every patient would need to at least heavily sedate them so that we can position them properly. We can't just ask them to lie still and put their arms above their heads.
It provides detailed 3D images to diagnose issues like chest, brain and spinal cord injuries, as well as fractures and dislocations. Once the information is collected, it can be sent off to specialists around the world.
The CT scan is just far, far superior in the detail that it will provide of the soft tissues and the bones, so we're much more likely to be able to get a diagnosis.
The machine will also save pet owners from a round trip on the M1.
We're very lucky to be able to bring this technology to the Hunter. We've got a very large and dedicated population of pet owners in the area, and so this really saves them from that trip to Sydney.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
There's been plenty of speculation, but this was straight from the top.
You can confirm that the Knights have signed Nathan Brown as their new coach?
Well, that hasn't, the technicalities haven't been done, but in principle, yes, the board has agreed to Nathan as the most appropriate man for us for the future.
Brown was interviewed for a second time on Monday. The club was hopeful it could formally announce the news early next week. Brian McGuigan's informal one changed all that.
I can confirm this morning that the Football Committee has made a recommendation to the full board that Nathan Brown be the next head coach. The chairman was clearly pleased with his discussion with Nathan Brown, but he was. I mean, Nathan was very impressive throughout the interview process.
Brown himself was keeping mum when interviewed by Peter Sterling last night.
They'll go through their process, and obviously, hopefully, I've interviewed well. Hopefully,
the finer details, such as length of his tenure and pay packet, are yet to be agreed on. But Matt Gidley is confident today's leak won't affect the ultimate outcome. Both he and Brown have already discussed the state of the current playing roster and the importance of finding the right position for Danny Badiris.
We see Danny, as a potential head coach in the future. He recognises himself that he needs to continue to develop, and whatever coach comes in, we'll have to ensure that they continue to help Danny progress his coaching.
Jalen Feeney could become a very important piece of the Knights' playmaking puzzle. Both Jared Mullen and Trent Hodkinson are currently injured. Next year, Feeney will be the man to fill the void.
I'm happy to fill in that number 3 spot and just be ensured as that backup halfback, and under the two quality players under Mullo and Trent Hodkinson. They've both played representative football, so just feeding off them, and I'm happy to fill in, and when I get my opportunity, just step up and take it.
Feeney has been impressive for the Knights' New South Wales Cup side. His game management and confidence have grown in 2015. Now he's been rewarded with a new contract.
You're always thinking, what's going to happen next year, but as soon as put pen to paper, it's a big weight off your shoulders, and you can start playing football and focus on football every week and not focus on what you're doing next year.
Feeney could be required this weekend. Kurt Gidley is expected to play, but didn't train yesterday due to injury.
I unfortunately didn't get a chance to debut this year, just wait my time, I guess. But if I did get the chance, it'd give me a lot of confidence going into the pre-season.
Despite registering 2 draws against Broadmeadow in the semi-finals, the Eagles remain confident ahead of Sunday's decider. Their impressive FFA Cup effort against Melbourne City at the grand final venue provides plenty of hope.
That was a great confidence booster for a lot of our boys, especially the young boys. To come and perform like that against them, we can take that into big games like the weekend.
Edgeworth will be full strength despite a training mishap that left the skipper with a black eye.
I had a head clash with one of my own teammates. Brent Hamill broke his nose, so I told him not to mess with me.
Luke Walker is the only player left from the Eagles' 2010 grand final winning side. Rivals Hamilton also have a limited number of players who've lifted the trophy. One is keeper Danny Ireland, who won last year's decider with Lambton. But Kyle Hodges believes it's striker Kane Goodchild who could hold the key.
He's a great player. I played with him at Azuri a couple of years ago, and I think he's one of the best strikers in the league easily, just for his work on and off the ball.
Olympic has no major injury concerns, but will be missing a key player.
We've lost Matt Swan. He's got a job over in Western Australia, so he had to fly out yesterday, which is a shame. But yeah, apart from that, everyone's pretty fine.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
We've been together now for, I think, 3 seasons. We won the grand final last year. We only lost 1 game during the season. That was to Forsyths. So we've got a lot of experience.
We kept with them for most of the game, so we just need to try that little bit extra and hopefully, yeah, get the win.
I feel in a really nice place with my cricket, and hopefully lots of runs can do the talking, and selection for higher honours, you know, comes about just through pressure of runs. That's the only thing you can do.
Thanks, Paul. Police are still here on scene as they work to recover the bodies of 2 men that washed up here on Stockton Beach. It's a real tragic set of circumstances. Both the men, aged in their 50s or 60s, set off from Broken Bay in northern Sydney yesterday, headed for Port Stephens. When the pair failed to arrive at their expected time of 3 o'clock this afternoon, a rescue mission was launched. The Westpac rescue helicopter found one of the men. The police later found the second. Both men are still yet to be formally identified. Back to you. Researchers hastily working to determine the extent of a chemical spill.
After all the time that we fought to protect our water from coal seam gas, and here it is on our doorstep from the military.
News of the contamination broke late last night, but authorities have known about it for weeks.
Defence made the state agencies aware around 2 weeks ago of this issue.
Defending the delay, the EPA says current provisions are purely precautionary until further testing is carried out. But it's cold comfort for residents who say they've had no communication from the state government. The chemicals found in firefighting foams were used for training exercises and operations at the base. In 2008, the chemicals were decommissioned, but since traces have been identified in ground and surface water at Tilligary Creek and Fullerton Cove. It's not yet known if the chemicals cause adverse health effects on humans, but as a precaution, the state government is advising residents not to drink bore water or eat fish or eggs from the area. There'll also be a suspension of all commercial and recreational fishing along with oyster harvests for 1 month. While the EPA has released a map of the affected area, it concedes residents living outside of the borders may also be affected.
This isn't something that we've got a clear border around, but we have given a map so that residents can see whether or not in the area where there is a potential risk, and it's those people that we're particularly encouraging to take the precautions we've identified.
The EPA and 2 other state government agencies are testing local fish and oysters for traces of the chemicals. They expect to have results within the month. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
It seems there could be troubled water ahead for aquatic staff in Maitland. Next week, councillors will discuss the findings of a recent aquatic operations review to gauge the support for a move to lease both facilities.
This is just purely an operational issue which will be coming before the council.
But the implications for staff could be immense. The review found significant operational cost savings could be made through the adoption of an outsourced management model. Those savings coming predominantly from reduced wages and salaries. On Tuesday night, Maitland City councillors will discuss the future direction for both the East Maitland and Maitland Aquatic Centres, with the hot topic of discussion being privatisation, and that's a real worry for the 38 employees who currently work across both centres.
We will be discussing to see who may be interested, like other councils have done. It's nothing sinister, it's just part of what is going to happen.
Council documents show the review has found that outsourcing would provide additional benefits due to the level of expertise that an external contractor with specialty knowledge in the operation of aquatic centres could bring to the facilities. Councillor Burke says the issue was raised due to plans for a 25-metre heated indoor pool at Maitland expected to be open to the public by early 2017.
We've got this new pool coming on next year which has led to this whole agenda item for next Tuesday.
The United Services Union is monitoring the situation for its members, saying it has concerns over the model which it claims shamelessly justifies its savings by paying workers less. Michael Kane, NBN News. For a dedicated policewoman, saying goodbye was today one of her hardest assignments.
Without a doubt, because I've been here a long time and I've known a lot of them for a very long time.
After 34 years on the Thin Blue Line, Pam Amlo called time on her career.
Sad in one way to see her go, but very much a celebration and an opportunity for us to thank her for her years of service.
The senior constable has seen plenty of changes in her time.
Well, the obvious thing was the uniform, because I started off in a pale blue skirt and top, and they wouldn't give me a 6-shot gun. I was only allowed to have a 5-shot.
Only yesterday she was part of a parade for 100 years of women in policing in New South Wales.
In the back row of the 2nd contingent and just going down Macquarie Street, it looked great from where I was.
Looking back on her time, there's no regrets.
I nursed before this, but this is where I was meant to be.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
The Knights are waving goodbye to season 2015. As a whole, it's one to forget, but there's still plenty to play for. Avoiding the wooden spoon, the primary concern.
You know, it is in the back of the mind, but, you know, we just want to send off our players that are leaving on a good note, like Gids and, and Bo and all them, so hopefully we can get the win and we can get off the bottom.
Nathan Brown will be in charge when they return for pre-season. Players were coy when quizzed on their reaction to the news, which was spilt by the chairman yesterday morning.
I haven't heard too much on it at the moment. At the moment, I suppose we're just waiting to get through this week, and whatever happens, happens, I suppose. So, like I said, I've been cooked this week, so I haven't heard too much, and just looking forward to playing this game under Bedsy.
I'm sure that whoever they pick is going to be the right man for the job.
Under-20s player Josh King travelled with the squad. Interim coach Danny Badiris was all smiles ahead of his last match in charge of the club.
If we can try and send him out on a positive note, that'd be great for not only us as a club, but for him as well, for his satisfaction.
Last year they finished fifth and, had a couple of games where they probably conceded more goals than they probably would have liked to. So I think we need to start from the back.
Western Suburbs are the benchmark. Despite beating the Rosellas earlier in the season, the Butcher Boys got a dose of reality last weekend.
It gave us an expectation of if we want to challenge for the title, and especially it starts this week, that's where we have to get to. They're the top team, and they taught us a lesson last week.
Before that, Central was on a run. Despite their streaky form, captain coach Rowan Kelly has claimed the underdogs tag.
They're going to be up for the game. They're playing in front of their home crowd. Barney, I have no doubt, will have them prepared for the game. So we're going in as underdogs, but we're going up there to do our best and hopefully come away with a victory.
In Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union, minor premiers Hamilton take on Wanderers in the major semi-final, while the Greens face the Waratahs in the minor semi on Sunday.
Every race from here is critical for me to gather points and try and catch up to Paul. And I'm always looking for the opportunity to improve and the opportunity to excel.
A sad end to a sailing trip. The bodies of a 71 and 77-year-old man washing up on Stockton Beach. The pair left Broken Bay on Thursday afternoon, headed for North Arm Cove in Port Stephens. They were expected to arrive at midday yesterday, but when there was no sign of them, their families raised the alarm. Their bodies, one naked, the other wearing a life jacket, were later found near Tin City.
Gentlemen, we believe were in constant contact with their family, and last contact was about 3 a.m. yesterday morning.
Attention has now turned to the whereabouts of the vessel the men were travelling in. Today, a sea, land and air search scoured the coast off Stockton Bight. Unfortunately, it failed to find anything. But police now believe an abandoned dinghy found at Barooby Beach yesterday is connected to the incident. The men were travelling in an 8-metre top hat yacht similar to this. Police say locating the vessel will be crucial to uncovering what happened to the sailors.
We'll search until we believe that it's not fruitful searching anymore.
The men won't be formally identified until Monday. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Six weeks ago, Newcastle artist Roger McFarlane set about sculpting a large block of marble all the way from Greece into the city's latest piece of public art called Resilience.
Pretty proud to be able to do a sculpture that's going to help the community rather than just art for art's sake.
Today was the biggest day of the project, with all cultures coming together at Foreshore Park to celebrate its completion. The sculpture aims to reduce the stereotypes surrounding mental illness within the community.
It's about destigmatising mental illness. It's about bringing awareness, understanding, hope, compassion. That really mental illness is, I think, for a lot of us, maybe just 1 degree away. It's okay. Mental illness is something we can talk about.
Former Newcastle Lord Mayor Jeff McCloy and his wife Tracy made a $70,000 donation to the $130,000 project. It's hoped the work will inspire people to open up about any difficulties they are facing.
And it's got a lot of tranquility here, peacefulness and calm, so people can come with their loved ones and sit.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
They do the boards and a transition up around the beach. After that, they'll come over here. They do the board rescue with a mannequin, or a dummy we call it. It's about 80 kilos of dead weight.
It's a pastime that's now become more fitness and dance based.
It's totally grown as an industry. We're even trying to get it on board at the Olympics.
Bella Rowland has 2 studios and trains over 200 people who've decided to give pole dancing a go.
Girls start as a beginner, don't even know how to do a push-up, can't even do a sit-up, and at the end of an 8-week term, you're surprised at how quickly their body does build up, and yeah, they're just having fun doing it, so they don't actually feel like they're exercising because they're having too much fun.
Kathy Studke says taking up pole dancing is one of the best things she's ever done.
Something creative, something different, just for the fitness really, just a different kind of exercise.
She's working to eliminate the stereotype associated with the sport.
Yeah, I try and tell a lot of people.
What's their reaction there?
Some are a bit sceptical, some love the idea, but none of them are game enough to try it yet.
There's also a competitive side to this, and Bella has excelled. With her partner Phoenix Hardy, the pair executed synchronised moves with precision to take out the major prize at the European Globe Titles in Germany.
It was fantastic. It was a great opportunity to get over there, represent Australia and also, come back with a trophy.
The pair will now compete at the Australian Championships tomorrow in Sydney. Michael Kane, NBN News. Ominous signs early, Sean Metcalf crossing for the opener. Minutes later, Cessnock was in again. A flat ball would see Corey Barber coast through a gaping hole. Some quick backline movement and the Goannas found more points when Joe Woodbury crossed. Central finally hit back through an unlikely scorer. Captain coach Rowan Kelly getting his side on the board. But the reprieve was short-lived. Joe Woodbury latching onto this crossfield kick to score his second. The Goannas turned the screws after the break, Foran sending Reid Hugo through a gap, the back rower stumbling over the line. Cessnock was doing it in a canter. Well organised, they found space out wide. The ball eventually finding Cal Orchard to put the game beyond doubt. The Butcher Boys season officially over. Some swift phase play and Wanderers would post first points. Luke Simmons skirting Hamilton's thin defence. The Hawks hit back, a kick deflection off a Wanderers player, finding the hands of Tana Lautai. But Wanderers were up for the challenge, once again attacking the left edge. Quick hands from Carl McDonald found Billy Coffey. A stolen line-out would see Hawks Ironman Joe Ackersdyke dive over. But the two Blues kicked away, again finding space on the left side of the field. Blair Rush finishing the job. Some fire after the break. Penalty for a late shot would gift the Hawks field position. Ackersdyke on the spot to punch through for his second. They found another when Tweedy Arcee leaped over to give Hamilton the lead. Wanderers wrestled it back. Daniel Martin barging his way through to cross next to the posts. The Hawks relentlessly attacked the Wanderers line but couldn't find a way through. Defence the difference. Wanderers hanging on at the death.
The track here at Spielberg is an amazing track. It's got a lot of elevation change, so we're up the side of the hill, back down again, in and around trees, and then just even taking off and landing from the track here is quite amazing.
A glow in the sky, a sign of the fire which took hold at Nelson Bay Golf Club. Emergency services arrived at around 12:30 a.m. to find smoke and flames billowing from the clubhouse roof. Once the day had dawned, the full extent of the damage could be realised. The interior left in ruins.
Extremely distressed. Obviously, that's the first feeling you have. But on the brighter side, there was no one injured.
While most of the blaze was extinguished by 7 a.m,
Firefighters remained on scene throughout the day.
Due to the roof collapse, we still have pockets of fire centrally within the building, so the remaining crews are doing what they can to extinguish those.
For club president Max Pride, news of the fire came as a terrible blow. Nelson Bay has a 3,500 strong membership base, and the clubhouse has been part of the community for more than 5 decades.
Supports a lot of community groups, support groups. It employs community people, and the large majority of the members are locals.
The club's board will hold a meeting tomorrow to discuss how it will move forward. With 1,500 golf members, it would like to see events resume in the near future.
That's our number one focus, is to get people back onto the golf course first. Looking at the building, obviously it's going to be months, if not years, before we have a fully fledged clubhouse operating again.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
Promising signs for Newcastle renters. Figures show the vacancy rate has hovered around the 4% mark in 2015, peaking at 4.6 in April, a big change over the previous 4 years.
There were situations there over that period where we actually got below 1% in some areas of Newcastle, certainly on the inner city. So that was at crisis levels.
Just last month, Dalton Partners had 30 vacant rental properties on its books in Newcastle alone. While that figure is down to a dozen now, it didn't shift quickly.
We've just seen that it's taken a longer time for properties to move because tenants have had more choice and a lot more supply. And that obviously has been put some pressure on rent prices as well.
A sentiment echoed by other agents. This inner-city one-bedroom apartment not attracting the interest it would have a few years ago.
You've been stampeded with tenants looking at properties, but that's not happening anymore. I think we were lucky, and some of the returns that owners were getting, I thought were inflated.
As for the cause, agents say it's all to do with the changing face of Newcastle. Several new apartment blocks have popped up and there's more planned. But with the CBD University campus on its way, the extra accommodation is expected to be needed.
That will have an extreme need for accommodation coming into 2017 and 2018, and we have to be prepared with new accommodation coming onto the market at that time.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
I've never won this award before, and to find out that I've won it this year has really inspired me to push even harder for Rio Paralympics next year, and hopefully my coach will think the same.
Edgeworth was looking to complete a rare minor premiership and grand final double, but rivals Hamilton created the first chance. Brodie Taylor provided the response for the Eagles. Edgeworth got forward again a few minutes later. The keeper was one of Hamilton's busiest players in the first half. Bren Hamill had the best opportunity to put Edgeworth in front before the break. The Eagles picked up where they left off early in the second act, and their persistence paid off when Olympic skipper Kyle Hodges conceded a penalty. Having scored from the spot against Melbourne City at this ground, Hamill stepped up again. Ireland almost gifted Edgeworth a second just a few minutes later. Hamilton needed a lift and Cody Lucas almost provided it. But a Hamilton mistake gifted the Eagles another chance. Eventually, Edgeworth made it 2-0. Not even a late red card to skipper Luke Walker could sour the occasion as the Eagles won their first grand final since 2010.
If the Bulga community has proved anything, it's that it's willing to fight until the very end. Today's Planning Assessment Commission hearing is the third to be held regarding the proposed expansion of Mount Thorley Warkworth. But there is one thing that's different. The state's mining policy has been amended. Clause 12AA was removed last week, meaning the significance of the resource is no longer the principal consideration.
And that's been a big problem for us and has been a big problem for the pack. But now that's been withdrawn. So we're back onto a level playing field.
Among those fighting for the Bulga community are people like the Kaysers, who've lived in Bulga their whole lives.
Over the years, it's just gradually gotten worse and worse. And if they get the expansion, it is going to get worse. You know, like, how are they going to stop the dust? What are they going to do to stop it? They can't stop it.
Regardless of the changes to the policy, Rio Tinto says the project still has a compelling case.
We've had it assessed on economics. social and environmental. And we comply with all the New South Wales policies and regulations, and we believe that this project should go ahead.
At the moment, the mine is 4 kilometres from Bulga. If approved, by 2031, it would come within 2.6 kilometres of the town, allowing another 358 million tonnes of coal to be mined.
The extension is worth about $1.5 billion to New South Wales in total. So it's a big positive benefit.
But there is one thing the Bulga community and Rio Tinto both want, and that is certainty. And they're hopeful after 5 years, a final decision will be made in the coming months.
We really need a decision quickly so people can actually get on with their lives.
The hearing will continue tomorrow. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Our medical crew went up by road, and with the help of SES and local police, they were able to locate the gentleman. Upon daybreak, with the fog clearing, we were able to then launch the aircraft.
It may be a cross or a floral tribute, simple yet powerful symbols of lives lost on our roads. Over recent years, such memorials have become an increasingly common sight, and councils have found the need to step in to ensure they don't become hazards. Port Stephens already has a policy for the assessment of tributes.
It's been working quite well, especially amongst the road reserve memorials, where the families and friends who do have the ability to mourn those that they've lost, and while still maintaining safety within the road corridor.
Council officers have now gone over the policy, which details rules for placement of structures and also allowable sizes, and not just for memorials near roads.
Most of the memorials are very small crosses, or there is allowance for park benches within parks or plaques or small trees.
Council says it's understanding of the desire to honour lost loved ones in this way, but urges people to check with it first.
We definitely do have a preference to people to ask Council to find out what the guidelines, just so we do have a safe corridor on the road reserve as well as safe parks.
The guidelines will go before Council at its meeting tomorrow.
Feels bloody good, actually. Yeah, sometimes you can start telling yourself that it's never going to happen. Yeah, you keep missing opportunities. I've done it now, and now I can just get on with the job of racing planes.
Brazilian footballers rarely lack confidence. When asked about the pressure of joining his new club today, Leonardo Santiago had a simple reply.
I love football. Eleita, everybody love me.
The 32-year-old admits he's never seen the A-League, but he played alongside former Wanderers star Shinji Ono during a successful career in Europe.
Não, Europa não, porque antes de eu vir para cá eu já tinha proposta para jogar e eu optei para vir para cá, entendeu? Então isso não estou preocupado. Vim para cá ter uma experiência e também quero jogar em
Leonardo hasn't played a professional game since late 2014, but he's confident he'll be ready for the coming season.
Estou 60% porque eu estava treinando com o personal trainer, mas preciso de 40%. Acho que 2 semanas, 3 semanas eu estou bem.
Yeah, at the moment he's probably around 60%.
The coach was happy with his import's first hit out as the Jets prepare for a pre-season clash with the Raw.
He'll certainly travel to Brisbane, that's for sure, and in the ideal world you want to integrate him as quick as possible and play him against Brisbane, but there's no rush from my perspective. You need him round one, not against Brisbane Raw in the weekend.
Scott Miller now has just one attacking import to add to his squad.
Talks are actually ongoing and they resolve in the next 2 or 3 days. The player's actually currently playing as well. Playing in their third straight grand final, Denman would start as underdogs against minor premiers Scone. But the visitors grabbed an early lead, Ben Hagan and Isaac McCormick combining. A high shot on Joel Pine gave the Devils a penalty and Luke Hasselman increased the lead. But Scone responded. A great cutout ball by Justin Apthorpe put Josh Watson over. With 6 minutes left in the first half, Tim Watson crashed through from close range to give the Thoroughbreds the advantage. Denman hit back after the restart, Gary McKean with a solo effort. Up 14-10, the Devils' next try was worthy of a grand final. McKean kicked for Jackson Ball and the winger did the rest. When Andrew Nichols converted, Denman had a 10-point lead. Scone faced an uphill battle when Hagan was sent to the bin, but the game was far from over. Smith snuck over from dummy half to reduce the margin. Jared Wicks and Daniel Ritter combined to put the Thoroughbreds on level terms with 3 minutes to play. In Golden Point extra time, your average country grand final became the longest game of rugby league in history. Both sides had chances, but after 128 minutes, a try to Hamish Wolfgang sealed a memorable victory for Denman and a second premiership in 3 years.
Perched in the picturesque Barrington Tops lies a sanctuary known as Devil Ark. It's an environment where the Tasmanian devil is thriving. A contrast to its native state, where facial tumour disease has all but wiped out the population. Captive breeding programs like these are critical to the species' survival and its environment.
It cleans up the ecosystem, it keeps the ecosystem nice and healthy by eating all the dead meat. It would just be a terrible loss.
We have managed to reproduce over 150 healthy, disease-free joeys, and you know, for such a short period of time, that's never been heard of.
And with spring comes more new life. Today, a few recent arrivals were unveiled to coincide with Threatened Species Day. This past breeding season has added 29 to Devil Ark's brood, including Diva and Levi. The 4-month-old siblings are being hand-raised by manager Dean Reid.
I give them 4 bottles of milk a day, so in the morning when I get up, lunchtime, dinner, and then just before I go to bed.
While these little devils will eventually form part of the breeding program, for 25 others, a different future now awaits. In just 4 years, this program has now come full circle, with the first group of joeys to be reintroduced to Tasmania in November.
I feel very confident in the work we're doing. I hope that post-November, upon monitoring and evaluation, these species are going to be thriving back in the wild and that future generations are going to be able to enjoy it rather than see them in picture books.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
And we're just going to take you live now to Wheeler Place in Newcastle, just one of several places across the nation where candlelit vigils are taking place regarding the Syrian crisis. Members of the Hunter Asylum Seeker Advocacy Network have gathered in solidarity with the Get Up movement, calling for an increase to Australia's refugee intake. It comes amid a groundswell of international support for those fleeing Syria, sparked by the image of a young boy washed ashore on a Turkish beach.
A few minutes of silence.